Welcome. Welcome to The Long Road. My name is Chris Roberts. I'll be your host today. Today's show is going to be a little bit different than shows in the past. My original intent of this show was to sit down and talk to you about a Staff Sergeant John Casares. Hopefully I didn't pronounce his name wrong. John was a B-17 crew member during World War II. He was shot down over France on a bombing mission. He parachuted from about 25,000 feet, suffered numerous injuries when he landed. He was captured by the Gestapo, and with the help of the French resistance, was able to escape capture a couple of times. And after a number of operations, he was able to endure a horrendous, painful, grueling passage through the Pyrenees Mountains into Spain, and then later on to England to become a free man again. But however, a number of incidents have come up in the past week or two that just got me thinking and says, you know what, John's story is important, and we're going to talk about John's story, part in this segment and part in next week's segment. But it came political. It's something that just got me in the gut. I had made a statement that I was proud of being a Marine, and I just wanted Marines. We're talking about, it's about the organization, the Good Free organization, how we wanted to be inspired by our leaders. And I was told by an individual who says, I don't give a crap, he was a little bit more colorful, about being Marine, never have been one, and I don't see any value. And it got me thinking. Ted Williams, one of the greatest baseball players of all times. He's accomplished so many things, Hall of Fame, Triple Crown. He went and said his proudest accomplishment in his whole lifetime was earning the title of Marine. An individual who gave up 5 years of his life, 3 in World War II, flying as a fighter pilot in the South Pacific and 2 in Korea. And then recently, Bob Feller, again, a great pitcher, 266 wins. He gave up almost 4 years of his life. And he said, again, with all his accomplishments, Hall of Fame, he said his proudest accomplishment was the ability to have served his country in time of need. And so it kept me going back and looking at the World War II veterans. When I was in the Army Advanced Engineer School, I had a chance to sit down with full General Bruce Clark, who went through with Patton through Europe. And I sat down with this guy, and I was awed, but I was inspired. He was one of the most humble individuals that I ever met. Then later on, I worked with a Colonel Wesley Fox, a Medal of Honor winner from Vietnam. He was humbled. You would never expected him, quote unquote, to meet the definition of a hero. I had a couple of drinks in the old club with General Wilson. He won the Medal of Honor in World War II. Again, he was so humbling as an individual, but they were inspired. It kind of gave you the feeling is, you know what, I don't want to let these people down. I want to become better. And that's what's something about heroes. They want to help you become better people. And so today when we're talking about politics, we talk about politicians. They come up and tell us over and over again how great of a leader they are, how they can inspire us. But something about these individuals, especially World War II veterans, they don't tell us they're going to inspire us. They don't tell us they're leaders. They show it. You feel it. You sense it. So what I've done is I've dedicated this show and next show not only to John Casares, but men and women of the World War II veterans, of the World War II era, that made us what we are today, men and women that inspired me to do better than I thought I was capable of. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a short film that I put together concerning World War II veterans and to honor them. And I was trying to find out what to say, but as I was doing it, I says, you know what? The photos, the expressions on these people's face, the anguish, the joy, they can say far more than anything I could ever say. So I hope you enjoyed this small clip. Well, welcome back. I hope you were moved by the clip. I was. My wife was kind of asking me why I was getting teary-eyed and stuff while I was doing it. Because these people did a lot for us. These people really did. And so, again, I hope you enjoyed it. And one final thing before we get ready to go to Staff Sergeant Casares' presentation was, as you notice on the cemetery, I'm not trying to be kind of gross or drab or whatever, but when I travel around the country, I like to go to military cemeteries. There's something about a peace, an order, an awe. As you see these tombstones row on row, you see the names of men and women who have made us who we are. You look at some of them 18, 19, 20 years old, died way before their time. You'll have other people 40, 45, they survived the war, but they really came home walking dead, and again, they passed on way before their times. So now we're going to go to Staff Sergeant Casares' presentation. It was done at the Keene Airport, and he was the guest of the Bendells of Monadnock Air, and I need to thank them for the opportunity for me to meet a great American. And I think you'll be surprised about the upbeatness of an 80-plus-year-old man who's gone through a lot in his life. And so, again, I hope you enjoy it, and I apologize for maybe the poor quality, but this was my first time as a cameraman, and we don't have a lot of money here at Channel 8. Thank you.
Hi, folks. Thank you all for coming today. On behalf of Monadnock Aviation and for all of us at Monadnock Aviation, we really do appreciate you coming in. I don't really have any words to preface the talk by John Casares other than we appreciate you coming in, and we are very, very grateful to be in the presence of an American hero. So thank you for coming today, John. We're very grateful. One other thing, if you have not seen, John does have a book that is offered in the back. These are terrific Christmas presents, so I highly encourage you all to support John and purchase his book.
Thank you very much, Beth. It's about time we made it up here.
Thank you.
And I want to thank everybody for being here. All you great pilots, I don't know what I'm doing here, but you certainly deserve to be the greatest. Ken, you have a friend that was in the Air Force too, and you're going to get a hold of him because I'm the president of the Escape and Evasion Society of the United States, and also not only nationally but internationally. And I'm recruiting anybody that has been shot down, escaped, and evaded. And if he's not alive, we can also get their children. Yes?
John, is there a way to turn the volume up a little bit?
Can you turn the volume up over there? So anybody that has a relative, a friend that was escape evasion, can join the Air Force Escape Society. We're going to have our reunion this year in San Antonio, Texas. Ken, I hope you stay there to see it. Anyway, as you can see, I was an aerial engineer of B-17, an aerial gunner and a photographer. And go quickly along here. This is a picture of myself when I graduated here from high school. And I volunteered for the, actually I volunteered for the Naval Air Cadet program. They threw me out because I had a color perception problem. But very important is that my brother and I, can you hear me back there now?
Yeah, fine.
Good. The very important here is my brother and I had a grocery store in Haverhill, Mass. And if you looked at this Collier's magazine back in June 14, 1941, down below it says Impregnable Pearl Harbor. About the same time, Life magazine had a picture of Pearl Harbor, Battleship Row, showing all the battleships and so forth in Pearl Harbor in color. You can't find that in Life magazine. It took me a year and a half to find this in the Boston Public Library. The one that came out with Life, today if you find it, you'll see a beautiful picture of a girl in a bathing suit. The government has a habit of keeping secrets. My secret was held for 60 some odd years. I had a mother, father, two brothers and a sister. that passed away recently. Never knew the story that you're going to hear today. And as of today, they still haven't released me from that secrecy oath I've signed. And I called them up about a year and a half ago, and I said, I'm printing a book. They said, you can't do it. I said, I certainly can. And they said, how are you doing it? I said, American has the Freedom of Information Act. They said, you got us there, but you're not going to get a release. So now they have me speaking all over the place. They're speaking, I had to speak to the Air Cadets, the Air Force Academy. I spoke at the World War II Memorial, at the Air Force's National Museum in Dayton, Ohio. You name it, they have me running around, but I won't get a release from them. And if I do, I'm going to give it back to them.
That's perfect.
And when I got thrown out of the Naval Academy program, there's 7 of us over here were thrown out at the same time. 10 of us joined. 7 failed the test. I don't know if any of you have taken the Ishihara test. Anybody know what an Ishihara test is? If you join the Navy, the Japanese in World War II developed a little pamphlet, and in it there was little dots, colored dots, and you were supposed to read a number. If you couldn't read that number, out you went. That's what happened. 7 out of 10 of us failed. My buddy here, Illinois, was the only one that ended up in the Air Force as a general. That's me up in the left-hand corner. 27 of us were able to join the Air Force U.S. Cadet at that time it was called the Army Air Corps. We all went in at the same time. Next. What happened is by the time I joined the Air Corps, they had too many pilots, too many navigators, too many bombardiers, so they asked me if I would volunteer as a gunner, and foolishly I said yes. That's me in Fort Myers, Florida, the day of graduation. What happened is that right from Fort Myers, they sent me to Seymour Johnson Field in North Carolina, and that's where I learned to be an aerial engineer. Not a good one, but I was a better gunner. And that's my crew in Pyote, Texas. And if anybody can tell me who this is, that's me right there, third left from the left. Can you see all of me? Don, can you see all of me? And we were in Pyote, Texas for 30 days, and we took our first phase of training, and then they sent us to Delhi, Texas for our second and third phase of training. And we went there, and after the first phase, second phase, they decided that it was time to send us overseas because we were losing too many B-17s. We had a Schwarzschild mission, the one in Rosh Hashanah. Between the two, we lost over 120 some odd planes. 10 men in the plane. I was on one mission, we lost 62 planes, 620 men went down. 8th Air Force that I finally ended up in had 50,000 casualties. And there's a Marine over there, and that Marine doesn't know it, but we have more men killed in just the 8th Air Force alone than all the Marines during World War II. 26,000 men in the 8th Air Force were killed. The other 23,000 were either prisoners of war or injured badly. Next. So what happened, they decided that we better pick up a couple of planes up in Nebraska, and they split our crew up. We got 2 new B-17s, and we flew them up to, we were supposed to go to Presque Isle, Maine, and on our way over, I had an oil leak in number 2 engine. So I called the pilot up. I said, we've been landing Grenier Air Base. He said, why Grenier? I said, because I live 30 miles away in Haverhill. And he was nice enough to let me on, but the commander wouldn't let me off the base. So I said, I'm going AWOL. He says, I'll lock you up if you go in. I said, good. I'll go to jail and you take my place. Next day I tried to get back on the base again. He wouldn't let me on. So finally I said, okay, lock me up. They're ready to take off. Are you going to join them? They need me. Well, anyway, he says, get out of here and don't come back to Grenier again. And I didn't do it for about 10 years. We fly that way overseas. What we did, we flew individually. We got up to Presque Isle, Maine. From there, we went to Gander, Newfoundland. And the next day, we were supposed to take off. The first plane that took off blew up. 10 men on that plane got killed right away. Does anybody here know of Lord Ha-Ha during World War II? You heard of Tokyo Rose? Okay.
Yep.
Well, Lord Ha-Ha was a British subject that was a traitor. And he joined with the Nazis. And he knew everything about what was happening during World War II. He knew every time we went on a mission, he knew we were going on. We got that information, nobody knew. He got on the radio that night, and he said the next 16 planes that take off with the pilots and their names, he named them all, are all going to get killed the next day. So we had to stand down. Can you hear me all right, Ken? Can you hear me? Come a little closer.
It's not you, it's me.
Come on, Ken, get a little closer. Anyway, we decided to have a stand down that night. We stayed with our planes all day. We couldn't find anything. The next day we took off, and 16 planes made it all the way to England. Got the England. This is a copy. A picture they took of me the first mission after I got back from the first mission. And that's not an injury there. That was from an oxygen mask. You had to be an oxygen to show up at 25 to 30,000 feet, 6 or 7 hours with oxygen. And the oxygen mask used to cut me right here. And what happened, we couldn't use those clothes because it was very cumbersome to try to fight use your guns, machine guns and so forth. So we're flying at 60, 70 below zero weather with open windows. So, any of you know how we kept warm? Yes.
Electric heated suits.
We had an electric heated suit, like an electric blanket. All we wore was a long johns, electric heated suit, and a coverall like this, so that we could move around. Then we had a 34-pound flak jacket we wore on top. I used to fly, a lot of us used to fly with an Army helmet. And every time the Germans were attacking from behind, we put it that way. They attacked from the front, we have it that way. And it saved a lot of lives. Okay, next. We're losing so many planes that they allowed us to take out A2 jackets and paint them that way. And they did the same thing with the noses of our airplane. You probably saw those. Next. A good friend of mine, Fitch's bandwagon, was over here. He's the only guy in our group that flew 25 missions and not a man gets scratched. Everybody else I flew with was shot down. He was the only one that didn't, right there. Next. This fella here, the first day I went on a mission, he says, "John, would you want to have absolution?" I said, "Where's the Greek Orthodox priest?" He says, "Greek Orthodox priest? All we got is Catholic priests, Protestant priests, and rabbis. That's what happened to the Greek Orthodox. We don't have enough money for them." He said, "I'm a Catholic," so I turned Catholic. Every mission I went on, this gentleman over here gave me absolution. 60-some odd years later, I found out he came from Haverhill, Massachusetts. I never knew it, and he never knew I came from Haverhill. His family still lives there. That's the Lawrence Airport. I go up all the time, but I have a B-17 flying. They have an empty seat. They call me up. So I decided to have a picture taken. And the day that I got shot down, I was flying right waist gun and photographer. So, next. This plane here, F4 Golf 190, first mission. First time I took a shot at a plane, he came flying right by my window, and I blew that whole rear end right off. You know what happened to him? Never did that again. People ask me, "How many did you shoot down?" I said, 3. How many I just damaged, I don't know. Next. First mission we were on, the tail gunner was thrashing around when he was fighting with his twin engine guns, and he went off auction. When we had the auction check, the pilot says, "You better go back and check him out." And apparently the auction mask fell off, and I went back, put it on for him, and it took me 15 minutes to revive him. But we sucked up all the oxygen in the back of the plane, and we had to go to the front part of the plane with 10-minute walk-around bottles right through the bomb bay door. And you know, you've been on B-17, that's the catwalk. You couldn't go through there with a parachute on or any heavy clothes. We went back and forth, the radio man, myself, 6 times. Brought back the the ocean mass of people in the back of the plane so they could survive. Next. I had 3 cameras. This is a K-24, it was a K-20, and a movie camera. One of them took pictures of the bombs falling, the other one took a picture of the bombs hitting the target, and we never hit the cities, even though they said we bombed Berlin and so forth. We always hit strategic targets. Next. This is Schweinfurt. 62 planes, B-17s and B-24s went down to Schweinfurt. And every time you flew, you had about 1,500 gunners over the target. And every little black spot you see there is an 88 millimeter that are shooting at you. The German fighter planes would fly right next to you, about 2,000 feet away where you couldn't shoot them down. They would radio down and tell the gunners that they're flying at 27,500 feet and they're going 180 miles an hour, whatever it was, and they would time their fuses and they'd blow up right next to you. And all you could hear underneath you was the shrapnel hitting the bottom of the plane. I not only wore a flak suit, I used to have one on the floor because there's so many pieces of shrapnel coming through that plane. This plane here, the left waist gunner was a friend of mine, and I knew everybody on that plane. They said, next time we go up, would you take a picture of us when we're dropping the bombs? I said, sure. 5 seconds after I took that picture, the plane blew up. They got hit by a flak. Next. Every gunner used to fly every position. Top turret, ball turret. My data came about and I had to fly the ball turret. I was 5'11", and you know, when you fly the ball turret, it was so small, you had to crouch down like this for 6-7 hours. And I was freezing to death. I called up the pilot and I said, after we had bombed the target, I said, you better get me out of here, I'm freezing to death. So he says, give me 15 more minutes and I'll have the plane over the English Channel, you can get out. I said, well, you better call headquarters and tell them I have an ambulance waiting for me. Next day, that's where I was. Base hospital, frozen feet, frozen arms, frozen face. I had to stay in there 2 days. Never flew the ball turret again.
Did that,
Yes, sir.
could you get between the ball turret inside the airplane, or were you?
That's the only way you could get in, through a little hatch about this big. And I'll tell you more about it, about the day we got shot down, what happened to my ball turret operator. And it was very difficult to get in and out. And you couldn't put a parachute on, you'd have to keep the parachute on the ground. You people have the seats around here if you want to sit down. Okay. This is the first day we went to Berlin. 2 days before that, I had flown 2 missions, and I wasn't supposed to fly to Berlin the next day. And we went out and had a few beers, came back feeling pretty good, and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, got to bed. 3 o'clock, they woke me up. Kasaris, you're flying. What do you mean flying? My crew's not flying today. You're a replacement gunner. Well, I come to find out, I'm flying with a pilot who's flying his first mission. Taylor Charlie Purple Hot Corner. The last plane in the formation. The poor son of a gun was so scared, he was flying 200 yards behind the planes in front of him. And you know, when we flew B-17s, you could almost touch the wings because they told us in order to fight the fighters, you have to have a group of machine guns firing at the plane. And the only way you could do that is fly together. So I called up and I said, I'm flying as a gunner that day, and I said, gunner, the pilot, you better get close. He pulls the plane up. 2 seconds later, he's back again. This happened 3 times. Now we're over France. I called him again and said, now, within a minute, we're going to get attacked. You better get that plane in there. You know what he said to me? Sergeant, if you don't keep quiet, you're going to get a court martial when we get back. I said, God damn it, get that goddamn plane in there, I'll come up there and fight it for you. He didn't know that my pilot had taught me how to fly B-17 straight. I bugged the hell out of my pilot to do that, but he allowed me to do that many, many times. Now, we get to Berlin, but just before we got there, German planes attacked us from the front. The next thing you knew, that whole plane was shattered with thousands of bullets. You should have seen that pilot pull up close to the other guys, right up his fanning, all the way to Berlin and all the way back. We never got attacked again. I got on my hands and knees when I got on the ground. And I was praying to God. He comes up, taps me on the shoulder. He says, Sergeant, I apologize. I says, Lieutenant, today you became a combat pilot. Think nothing of it. That's the picture I took over Berlin, by the way. That was not Berlin, that was Irkna. That was a ball bearing factory that we hit 97% damage. And you know, the Germans needed ball bearing for everything they manufactured, you know, tanks and planes and so forth. And we knocked off that factory 97%, but we lost a lot of planes there. There was 850 fortresses and liberators that same day. And he was the last man in the formation. And we made it back. Next. That was in the Stars and Stripes in I think it was February 1944. I'm not going to tell you about every mission we ran on because it'll take me, I only got 45 minutes. Am I right, Beth?
You have as much time as you want, John.
Well, anyway, the day that we got shot down was March 20th, 1944. And what had happened, when we took off, we were flying about 27,000 feet over the air base, and we were forming up, and two planes collided. And we thought they were going to recall everybody. The two planes that collided, we lost 20 men right away. But we continued on, went to France, and we got up, finally we got up to 30,000 feet, just barely skimming the cold front. And what happened is that about 20 minutes before we get to Frankfurt, which we were supposed to bomb a Focke-Wulf 190 factory, they were producing 60% of the Focke-Wulf 190s in that factory. And we had to knock it off because Eisenhower went to every one of our bases. He came to our base. He said, we're going to have the D-Day coming up soon, and I don't want to see a German plane over D-Day, which he never did, you know. Never did. Not a German plane was over D-Day. And he wanted every pilot that we could kill, Luftwaffe pilots that we could kill. By that time, what had happened, they had 1,000 Me-262 jets built. Did you know that? It was 1,000 of them. But they didn't have pilots to fly them. They had even kids flying at that time. The day that got shot down, we got into to Frankfurt, because the way we went in, there's a plane above us 20 minutes before the target. He came down and almost hit us. My pilot went into a dive and went down several thousand feet. Centrifugal force had us up against the wall of the plane, and I don't know how he ever pulled it out, but he did. And when we went up ahead, radio silence was such that we couldn't radio, and we never saw another plane. So we decided to go on into the target. So if you read about Frankfurt, Germany getting bombed on 20th of March, 1944, we were the only plane over there. But we hit the target. We had a good bomber here. But what had happened, the planes were all recalled to another mission. And instead of hitting Frankfurt, they went to someplace else. We don't know where. And not yet. What had happened is that we lost 2 engines over Frankfurt. There was 1,500 guns over there shooting at us. And on our way back, we fought the Luftwaffe from Frankfurt all the way to Reims. And 4 of us were killed in the plane. The others that were able to fire their guns ran out of ammunition, except the tail gunner and the ball turret operator. But when we look back at the tail, we knew why he didn't fire was because of the fact he was killed. So I had to go back and check him out, and I took over his guns because I had no ammunition, and I finished out their ammunition and went back to the waist. Now, what I'm telling you right now took about 2.5 minutes, maybe. And when I got back to the waist, the left waist got hit in the neck. I put a scarf around his neck, and it was so cold, the blood congealed. We put a parachute on him and threw him out of the plane. And he lived for 2 days. He made it to the ground. The Germans picked him up and operated on him, but they couldn't save his life. And then the pilot called up and he says, the right wing is on fire, everybody bail out. We get the gong, and I'm ready to bail out, and I couldn't put my parachute on because I had been shot up, especially with my right arm. I couldn't put it on. The radio man came over and put it on for me. And as we were getting ready to go out, the ball turret man came out, and he got stuck in the ball turret. He couldn't get out from here. What had happened, all the empty shells had fallen into the gearbox. And in the gearbox, it stuck him. So we had the radio man, lucky he had the radio man myself there. We went in and plucked all these things out so he could get out. He got out, and as you know, we never do our parachutes. He picked the parachute up with the D-ring, and it blossoms out in the plane. What else could happen? The door was open. He gathers the silk in his hands. He bails out. He made it to the ground, but he had passed out because we were up at 26,000 feet at the time. He hits a high tension wire coming down and impregnates himself on a picket fence. He'd already been injured on the plane, and what had happened, the Gestapo picked him up, and they, believe it or not, they operated on him, and for 57 days he was in the hospital in Reims, France. And he ended up living up until 3 months ago. The rest of my crew is all gone. I'm the only one left. Well, now it's time for us to bail out. So I jump out of the plane, and now we're up at 25,000 feet, and I know I have to take a free fall because we're running around on the plane without oxygen, and if we pull the parachute, you're not going to live. So I took the free fall, and before I did, I prayed like the devil. I'll tell you, you have to have a lot of faith. Believe me, you better pray when you get in a situation like that. And somehow or other, I said to myself, how am I going to open up this parachute? I can't even raise my right arm to pull the D-ring. And I'm trying with my left arm to get across it. And I got a 32-inch arm. I was having trouble. I passed out. I come close, and I look at the ground, and it's coming up fast. I pray again. For some reason or other, somebody helped me pull that parachute. I don't know why I got it open. It opened up, and as it opened up, I broke 6 ribs, hit the ground right away, fractured 2 ankles, fractured an arm, split my head open. 2 planes like this, and ME-109s come flying over me. I thought they were going to shoot me. Instead, they came by and they saluted 3 times. I saluted back to them, and what they did is they gave me away to the Gestapo. Within minutes, the Gestapo picked me up, and they got a fellow by the name of Henry, who was a worker in the farm, and he carried me to the farm. Next. That farm, it was a World War I air base for the French Legionnaires. And this guy named Georges Gunnemer, if you go down there and take a look at the farm, he had 53 victories against the Germans, and he got killed back on July 15, 1917. They never found his body. And that plaque is still up on the wall over there. Next. Did you skip one? Right. Let's go back here. I just want to get this. Yeah, this is where I landed, right here. That's the field that the escadrille had in World War I, and you can see it was a runway. Now, of course, it's a farm now, and the farmhouse is right here. And this Henry came by and picked me up and put me in a wheelbarrow and took me there. Next. Now, a friend of mine, I did a lot of research. I researched for over 20 years in this book. And one of the fellows I had did the research for me, he flew over that farm, he took pictures of it. And he showed us exactly how our plane ended up. When we bailed out, the pilot had already bailed out with the co-pilot. The bombardier threw out the navigator. The navigator got killed because his parachute never opened up the candle. The bombardier landed here, and the pilot and co-pilot were right about there. I bailed out, and I ended up in that farm. As you can see, we all went down the road. Radio man here, waist gunner there, Crowley, the guy who hit the all-tour operator that got killed, landed there, and a few seconds later, the plane blew up. It blew up right about here. The only thing we could find about the plane when I went back, tell them I'm not here. Mary, I'm not here. Anyway, the only thing we found was a propeller, and I'll show you that later on. Next. They laid me out in this farmhouse in the living room, just like that. That's a reenactment. I went back years later. And I was there with the Gestapo questioning me for about 6 days. They tried to beat me up a little, but I was in such bad shape, I actually told them to go to hell. And what had happened, They brought a doctor, a German doctor, came in and wanted to cut my arm off. I wouldn't let them do it, so they left me there for dead. They put 2 guards over me, and after 3 or 4 days of trying to get some information from me, and I wouldn't give it, they left me there. No food, no water, for over 5 days. All of a sudden, these 3 fellas, these 2 fellas and this guy walked in. This fellow right here came in and put his finger to his mouth, and they all had guns in their hands. I thought, at first, I thought they were Gestapo, get that threatening. But then I realized when he put his finger to his mouth that they might be the resistance. They certainly were. These 2 fellas walk in the back room. The guards weren't guarding me. They walked in, and all I heard was pop, pop. They killed both guards, took me out, put me in a car, drove off. They had a patrol firing at us. They fired back at them, but we made it out, and they took me down to this fellow's house. That was, we went to the east side of Reims, and they laid me out on the floor there. I was all bloodied up, and I was moaning and groaning with pain. And they brought in a lady called Madame Ramoge, who could speak English, and she said to me, John, the Germans are bivouac next door. If you keep moaning and groaning, they're going to come and investigate, and there's a lot of people here going to get caught. So we're going to have to turn you over to the Germans. However, if you wait until tomorrow morning, we'll try to get you some medical help. Would you rather be treated by the Germans or by the French? I said, I don't want the Germans. Get a piece of cloth, put it around my mouth, tie it around my neck, and I'll bite in it all night long, which I did. Next morning, they had a fellow by the name of Polo. He was a local taxi man with a horse and buggy, put me in a horse and buggy, and he took me to a clinic. Right behind the Reims Cathedral is a clinic. It's still there. And there was a German doctor, French-German doctor, hiding out in the cellar that I found out 60 years later because the resistance lied to me. They said they'd got a surgeon from Paris, and they had him operate on me. It was a lie. But anyway, this is Henry, by the way, right here. He's the guy, when I went back, he's the guy that put me in the wheelbarrow, and that's the woman that owned that farm. Next. When it happened, when the doctor operated on me, halfway through the operation, the ether ran out. I woke up in the middle of the operation. The French resistance had to get more ether. That afternoon, they operated again. The doctor wanted to amputate my arm because they said I had gangrene in it, and the French resistance wouldn't let them do it. They said, I don't have any ether. I don't have the ability to operate a 3rd time, so they made him wait until the next morning. So in 28 hours, I was operated 3 times by that doctor who saved my life and saved my arm. As you can see, I can still use it. Not very well, I can use it. That night, after the 3rd operation, now I still haven't had anything to eat. What the French try to do is give me a little wine, a little beer, and I kept saying, I want the loup. And they said, the loup's no good. It rush your stomach. And they wouldn't give me any water, so I ran for water. All of a sudden, the nurse come running in with 2 men and said, vite, vite, allez. Meaning, let's hurry up, you gotta get out of here. I said, what's the matter? The lady downstairs that heard me ring the bell knew that nobody was supposed to be in the room I was in, and she was a collaborator, and she called up the Gestapo, and they had to get me out, and they took me out and put me on the street. I rolled off into a gutter. Here I am with my bloody coveralls laying in the gutter, and the German soldiers are walking by with their dates, looking at me thinking I was a drunk. About 15 minutes later, a couple came by, picked me up, and they brought me to this place. This is an old World War I cavalry unit. And they brought me up and pushed me up the side. Now, mind you, what I went through for 5 or 6 days, 3 operations, and they're pushing me up the stairs because I couldn't walk up the stairs, and they put me in a jail. I didn't realize it at that time. I thought I was with a bunch of Germans, and they put me in the jail in Reims, France. And the next day, they came in and started questioning me. And this fellow walked in. He was dressed up in the military clothes. I didn't know who he was. I wouldn't give him an answer. And he said, if you don't answer me, tomorrow we're going to shoot you. And the best thing that ever happened to me, you have to go through 5 phases in order to live. The first phase was faith. Second phase is help. Next one is luck. Now, up until this point, I've had all of that. But you also have to have the guts to live. And you have to be positive about wanting to live. Otherwise, a lot of my friends that went down like I did, gave up, ended up in prison camps. I didn't want to end up there. Well, anyway, what had happened in there, Mrs. Ramevje came back again, thank God. There it is, luck again. For some reason or other, they got a hold of her. And apparently this was a rogue French group, French resistance group, that had no ties with the other ones that saved my life. And she said, John, tomorrow they're going to put you up against the wall and shoot you. You got to tell them something about you, and let them know you're an American. I said, what makes them think I'm German? How do we say yes in America? Yeah. George W. Bush the other day was on TV, and 16 times I counted that he said, every time he answered, he said, yeah. Never said yes. When I answered yeah every time, they thought I was German. That's what the German word is. For yes, the German word is ja. So they thought I was a German pilot that had been wounded and volunteered to bail out and try to break up the underground in that area, which happened many, many times. Well, anyway, I said, well, I'm going to tell them the truth. I told them I'm in the 1st Bomb Group, 612 Squadron. I'm in Deanthorpe, England, and we're flying B-17s. But the major thing I told them is you fly over our airbase. The airbase looked like a pistol. And at the end of the pistol were 3 little ponds. And it looked like that airbase is shooting 3 bullets. 2 days later, they checked it out and found out I was right. The 3rd day, this fella and the other 2 fellas that saved my life the first day, they came in, had a big argument with that rogue group, and got me out of there.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the first part of Staff Sergeant Kantoris's presentation, and we would like you. Hopefully, you'd come back and see the second part of his presentation. To me, it was an honor and a privilege, and one of my goals we're going to hopefully get a little piece of some actual footage of B-17s in combat, and then get some photos of B-17s and some of the crewmen and women of B-17s, because very few people understand was that a lot of the B-17s, which were flown from the United States over to Europe, were flown by American women, American pilots, pilots that just got the gold medal, the gold medal award just recently for their services. Unfortunately, far too many of them had passed on before they were able to get the reward. So again, hopefully we'll see you again on the second portion of it next week. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you on that long road.